When did Islamophobia become an accepted form of discrimination? Joining me now to discuss this issue is Seton Motley, president of lessgovernment.org. Seton, welcome back.
Good to be back.
What if he'd said, I feel nervous, I feel afraid when I see a black guy in the front of the plane?
Well, Jesse Jackson said that in 1985.
Well, it's equally condemnable, and Jesse Jackson isn't an NPR news analyst.
Well, the point being, it depends on who you're talking about and when you say it and who says it. One of my maxims in life is being liberal means never having to say you're sorry. And we've reached the point now where NPR, thank you, NPR has gone so far to the left that a liberal like Juan Williams is too far to the right for them.
Isn't it? Well, I always thought Juan Williams was a conservative. You know, NPR, the president of NPR talked about today, or one of the people there in one of their press flags, or press briefings or whatever, said that they had received hundreds of complaints over
in a way, they got
one of those was from me. Actually, you know, I was one of those Sunday morning things where he just came on and just started, you know, basically doing a Fox News rant. You know, I don't even remember the topic now. It's been several years, but I always thought of Juan Williams as a guy who was a conservative. But the point is that
just shows how far to the left you are, Tom.
Of course, and proudly so.
Yes.
But he was on a news network, NPR. And
a liberal news network.
Well,
the Corporation for Progressive Broadcasting.
The Corporation for Public Broadcasting. This is a news network, and then he doesn't NPR have the right to protect their brand?
They have a liberal brand.
They've got whatever their brand is. Don't they have the right to protect their brand? To say if one of the people who is
and we
our
have the
brand,
right to say as a taxpayer, I don't want to fund that.
Well, that's an interesting point. How about the way it's done in Denmark, for example? You know, Danish radio entirely funded.
I don't want any government agitprop propaganda. This is very.
So who's going to provide us with real news then? If we can't, you know, if it's all
I don't consider Bill Moyers to be real news. I know you probably do.
No, actually, I think Bill Moyers' commentary, and this is an area that. Just like, you know, BBC just got their budget cut today.
Yes.
You saw David Cameron, you know, what was it, 18% cut? Significant.
It was double digits for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
It might have even been larger than that in the 30s, but whatever it was. But they've wandered into the area of doing sitcoms, doing comedies, doing documentaries, doing all kinds of things that arguably should be in the realm of commercial broadcasting. Yet, on the other hand, you come up against this problem of who's going to fund the arts? Who's going to fund these kind of conversations?
Well, the private sector. I want the private sector to do these things.
But if it was up to the private sector, Beethoven and Bach, we would not know of them. They were funded by the royalty of their day.
Well, that's fine.
They were funded by government.
And you know who the royalty is now? Bill Gates. And he funds a lot of this stuff.
So you think our country should be run by Bill Gates?
No. I'm saying if he wants to fund the arts, he can do that. And he does. Steve Jobs funds the arts. He can do that. It's his money.
It should exclusively be the province of the rich. So average people...
Well, that's what it was back then.
Well, and back then, average people could not go in to hear Beethoven's work. And you want to go back to that?
No, they fund him at the symphony and all that. The people you're talking about, the blue-collar guy that you're talking about, does he go to the Kennedy Center and watch Beethoven perform?
I think a lot of people do, actually.
Well,
maybe not that necessarily the Kennedy Center, but there are a lot of government-funded programs for the arts that I think average people participate in. Having them on TV, you know, I think is probably a good idea.
I think anytime you're forced to fund something via conscription that you don't want to fund, that's a problem. And when you're getting into extra constitutional expenditures like NPR, like PBS.
Well, it's not extra constitutional. The Constitution specifically says provide for the general welfare. Excuse me, twice in the Constitution.
Yes, but that does not mean fund government programs.
Why not?
Why not?
Why not?
Because did they fund newspapers when they started?
Actually, yes.
No, they didn't.
During the George Washington administration, legislation was passed.
Yes. They had tax breaks for it.
No, it's not the case. During the George Washington administration, there's legislation.
You've been reading too much Robert McChesney. You've been reading way too much Robert McChesney and John Nichols.
I've been reading Thomas Jefferson's diaries. Legislation was passed to subsidize the manufacture of newsprint, so that newspapers could get cheap newspaper, so that and also the Postal Service subsidized.
It was a tax break.
But let's get back to Islamophobia. This is the topic I wanted to talk about, and that is.
And it is not Islamophobia. Your definition of Islamophobia is so broad as to be ridiculously
What I'm saying is that when a public figure who is representing himself as news, who, by the way,
was not representing himself as NPR because they asked him last year to stop representing himself as NPR on Fox.
But everybody knows that he's with NPR until now. Now he's got a $2 million contract, by the way. Rupert Murdoch has come out and said, "Hey, good work, guy. We'll give you $2 million."
Hey, he's a hot commodity. Look with Dave Weigel.
He is, and that's what happened. But still, the issue of his in public giving voice to what I think has become in the United States almost a sickness. I mean, no, seriously, this is.
I think anti-Islamophobia is a far greater sickness than Islamophobia.
So if he had said, that he gets really nervous when he sees a Hasidic, somebody who's obviously Jewish, wearing garb.
Well, how many buildings have Hasidic Jews blown up recently?
Well, are you suggesting that it was Muslim, the Islam is responsible for 9/11?
Are you suggesting that there's not a significant percentage of the Muslim world, I mean in the world, not just here, in the world, that isn't at least sympathetic to what happened on 9/11?
I think when it happened, the vast majority of Muslims all over the world, and we know this.
That is funny.
You know this. We're absolutely opposed to what happened. In fact, in downtown Tehran, Iran, there was a candlelight vigil in support of the United States.
Yes.
George Bush blew that up by invading 2 Muslim countries.
No, because if you recall,
had nothing to do with 9/11.
If you recall, when we started shock and awe in Baghdad, there were people in Tehran with signs saying, "You missed, we're over here." Yeah. So don't say he ruined the
one guy with a sign.
No, there were a bunch.
The fact of the matter is that
the same people who did the Green Revolution.
That 9/11 was planned in Spain and Germany. These guys were getting their flight schools in Florida and Minneapolis.
Listen.
Why don't we start bombing Florida and Minneapolis? Why aren't we going after this? This is just totally off.
No, but it's not.
This is not Islam.
To say
there are
slightly
3
concerned.
million good Muslims in this country. You're slurring them.
One of my best friends, Mohammed El-Bieri, was just named by Janet Napolitano to a national security panel. He's been my friend for years.
Are you saying that you get uncomfortable if you saw him or somebody?
He doesn't wear.
Like him
first of all, he doesn't wear a burqa. Second of all, I know him. He dresses in Western garb, for lack of a better term.
Oh, so he dresses the same way Muhammad Atta did.
Yeah, and that's the point I made. I said,
shouldn't we start getting nervous when we see guys dressed in business suits getting on airplanes?
But what happens is when you have we had that street.
Oh my God, he's got a suit on.
When you have that street theater that happened in Minneapolis with the snakes almost on a plane, those 6 Muslim street theater guys were praying very loudly, got on the plane. It was a CARE put-up job, the Council on American Islamic Relations, and they got on the plane and they didn't know that one of the passengers spoke Arabic, and they were talking about what a great guy Osama bin Laden was, and they yank him off the plane. When you have put-up jobs like that, it leads people to have problems like this. And if you called out CARE, and if you called out CARE, it was a Hamas front group.
Okay. I know nothing about that incident other than
you remember it.
I remember everybody got paranoid, but
no,
your little story about
it. It was street theater. It was CARE street theater.
In any case, Seton, thank you for coming.
It's my pleasure. Always good to see you, Tom.
Okay, good to see you too.